This is happening right now in Jerusalem. The streets went silent, phones stopped ringing, conversations ceased mid-sentence, even reporters had no words. And when I tell you why, you'll understand what's truly unfolding. The mainstream media isn't covering this. They don't want you to see what's really happening. But the truth can't stay hidden forever. You're watching this because something in your spirit recognizes this moment as different. The ancient stones of the old city shimmered under the morning sun. The dome of the rock glowed gold beneath a clear sky that seemed different somehow, more luminous, more present. Synagogues, churches and mosques all stood in silence, as if holding their breath. This is the same soil where prophets walked, the same streets that heard the Messiah's footsteps. It began at dawn. Witnesses reported a strange vibration coming from the eastern gate, the sealed entrance that has remained closed for centuries. The massive stones began to emit a low hum, barely audible, but felt deep within the chest of anyone who came near. By midday, hundreds had gathered at the base of the ancient wall, their hands pressed against the warm stones. "I've lived here 73 years, an old merchant said, his eyes wide with wonder. "But I've waited my entire life for this." A pilgrim from Canada wiped tears from her face. "I felt the heavens touch the earth," she whispered. "I wasn't planning to come to Jerusalem this week. Something drew me here. This isn't hysteria. This is prophecy in motion. What the prophets saw thousands of years ago is unfolding before our eyes." Ezekiel 44:1-3 declares, "Then he brought me back to the outer gate of the sanctuary, the one facing east, and it was shut. The Lord said to me, 'This gate is to remain shut. It must not be opened. No one may enter through it. It is to remain shut because the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered through it.'" And remember what Jesus said in Luke 13:35, "Look, your house is left to you desolate. I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, 'Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.'" My friend, can you feel this in your spirit? Do you realize we are witnessing what generations only dreamed of? God is moving the pieces of the end times. The veil between heaven and earth is getting thinner. This is the preview of the greatest event in human history. Write in the comments, "Maranatha, come, Lord Jesus." Share this message so more people awaken to what's happening. Now that you know this, what will you do about it? Are you ready for what comes next? While the world sleeps, God is calling those who are awake. What happened today stopped a city, but what's coming will stop the entire world. Today, something impossible appeared over the Temple Mount. People left their work and looked up at the sky. Children pointed, and adults fell silent. Even the birds seemed to pause mid-flight, and when I tell you what they saw, you'll understand why this changes everything. The authorities are trying to explain it away. Scientists are calling it an atmospheric phenomenon, but thousands saw it with their own eyes, and the truth is spreading faster than they can contain it. You're seeing this because you're meant to be part of this awakening. Not everyone will understand, but you will. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Jerusalem's limestone buildings. The Western Wall Plaza, usually bustling with prayers and tourists, became a sea of upturned faces. The same city that has witnessed the footsteps of kings, prophets, and the Messiah himself was once again becoming the center of divine attention. It began as a thin ribbon of light, not from the sun, but seeming to emanate from the sealed eastern gate itself. This light climbed skyward, widening as it rose, until it formed what witnesses described as a pillar of cloud, standing directly over the Temple Mount. Within the cloud, flashes of what looked like fire pulsed rhythmically. An Israeli soldier, trained to remain composed in all situations, found himself unable to speak for several minutes. When he finally did, he said only, "This is exactly as Moses described it. Exactly." A group of tourists from Brazil filmed the phenomenon on their phones. But strangely, many of the recordings showed only a faint glow, nothing like what they witnessed with their naked eyes. And it's as if it can only truly be seen by those who are looking with more than just their physical eyes, said a theology professor from Jerusalem University. This isn't coincidence. This is prophecy unfolding. What was written millennia ago is manifesting in our lifetime. Exodus 13:21-22 tells us, "By day the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud to guide them on their way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so that they could travel by day or night. Neither the pillar of cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people." And in Acts 2:19-20, Peter quoted the prophet Joel saying, "I will show wonders in the heavens above, and signs on the earth below, blood and fire and billows of smoke. The sun will be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and glorious day of the Lord." My friend, do you understand the weight of this moment? Can you perceive how the ancient and the future are converging right now? The prophetic timeline is accelerating. What was foretold is beginning to manifest. Like this video if you believe God is still speaking today. Share it with those who have eyes to see. Are you prepared for what this means? Do you understand that you're living in the generation that will witness the culmination of all prophecy? What appeared over Jerusalem today silenced a nation, but what follows will silence the entire world. Jerusalem stopped this morning for a reason no one can explain. The city that never truly rests suddenly became still. Traffic halted. Conversations paused. People from every faith stood motionless, sensing something beyond understanding. And when I reveal what happened at the Pool of Siloam, you'll recognize the prophetic moment we're entering. This story won't make headlines. It contradicts too many narratives, challenges too many assumptions, but it's spreading through witness testimonies and first-hand accounts. You're hearing this because your spirit has been prepared for such a time as this, not by coincidence, but by divine appointment. The morning light filtered through Jerusalem's narrow streets, casting a golden glow on the limestone walls. The Pool of Siloam, where Jesus once healed a blind man, lay quiet in the ancient city of David, recently excavated and restored to its Second Temple period appearance. Witnesses say the water began to move around 9 a.m., not from wind or disturbance, but from within, a gentle bubbling that grew stronger until the entire pool was in motion. Then, most remarkably, clear water began to flow outward from the pool, forming a small stream that moved east toward the Kidron Valley. "It's impossible," said a hydrologist who was called to the scene. "This pool has no natural spring anymore. It's fed by rainwater and controlled channels. There is no explanation for new water emerging from it." By noon, hundreds had gathered. Some filled bottles with the water, others stepped into the pool itself. 3 separate reports emerged of individuals with chronic illnesses experiencing sudden relief after contact with the water. A woman from Ethiopia, visiting Jerusalem on a pilgrimage, removed her glasses after wading in the pool. "I've been legally blind for 12 years, she said, her voice trembling. "Now I can see your face clearly." This isn't fantasy. This is prophecy materializing before us. What was sealed in Scripture is being unsealed in our time. Ezekiel 47:1-9 prophesied, "The man brought me back to the entrance to the temple, and I saw water coming out from under the threshold of the temple toward the east. As the water flows toward the Dead Sea, the salinity of the water will become fresh. Swarms of living creatures will live wherever the river flows. There will be large numbers of fish, because this water flows there and makes the salt water fresh. So where the river flows, everything will live." And Jesus himself said in John 7:38, "Whoever believes in me, as Scripture has said, rivers of living water will flow from within them." My friend, can you perceive the pattern unfolding? Do you see how the natural is responding to the supernatural? The ancient prophecies aren't just words on parchment. They are blueprints for the days we're entering. Write, I believe, in the comments if your spirit confirms what your mind is still processing. Share this revelation with those who hunger for prophetic understanding. Now that these waters have begun to flow, how will you respond? Will you merely observe from a distance, or will you step into the stream of what God is doing? What began at Siloam today refreshed a city, but the river that's coming will refresh the entire world. This is happening right now across Jerusalem. The unexpected sound pierced the air at precisely noon, not from one location, but from all quarters of the city simultaneously. Every ear heard it, yet no mouth claimed to have produced it. And when I explain what this sound signifies, you'll recognize we've entered the threshold of prophecy. The international press is dismissing it as mass suggestion. Religious authorities are divided in their interpretations, but those who witnessed it firsthand speak with a certainty that transcends doubt. You're learning about this because your spiritual antenna has been tuned to the frequency of these last days. There are no accidents in God's timing. The midday sun stood directly overhead, casting minimal shadows across Jerusalem's sacred landscape. Markets buzzed with activity, tourists queued at holy sites, and locals went about their daily routines when it happened. The sound of a shofar, the traditional ram's horn trumpet, echoed across the city, not from a single point, but seemingly from the air itself. It began as a low, sustained note that gradually ascended in pitch and intensity until it filled every street, every alley, every room. For exactly 1 minute, it sounded, then silence, more profound than before. In the aftermath, reports flooded in from across Jerusalem. A tour guide at the Western Wall described how several elderly visitors fell to their knees at the sound. At the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, a choir that had been practicing suddenly began singing in perfect unison with the mysterious trumpet. On the Mount of Olives, olive trees were observed swaying despite the complete absence of wind. "I've blown the shofar for 40 years during our high holidays," said an elderly rabbi from the Jewish quarter. This was different. This wasn't a human sound. This was the voice we've been waiting for. A Greek Orthodox priest who was leading prayers added, "In that moment, all my theological training seemed inadequate. This was not for the mind to comprehend, but for the spirit to recognize. This isn't imagination. This is prophecy materializing. What was written is now being heard." 1 Thessalonians 4:16 declares, "For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God." And in the Old Testament, Joel 2:1 prophesied, "Blow the trumpet in Zion, sound the alarm on my holy hill. Let all who live in the land tremble, for the day of the Lord is coming. It is close at hand." My friend, are you discerning the acceleration of prophetic fulfillment? Can you feel the convergence of signs? The cosmic clock is approaching midnight. What generations have prayed for is beginning to unfold in our lifetime. Like this message, if the Spirit bears witness with your spirit about these things, share it with those who are watching and waiting. Are you aligning your life with these prophetic realities? Have you prepared your heart for what your eyes will soon see? What sounded over Jerusalem today awakened a city, but the final trumpet will awaken the entire world. Today, something unprecedented is happening in Jerusalem's streets. People from every nation are arriving by the thousands, not planned, not organized by any human hand, yet flowing with divine precision, strangers embracing as family, ancient enemies standing side by side in wonder. And when I reveal what drew them all here, you'll understand why this fulfills what the prophets foresaw. The secular media is calling it mass tourism or a religious festival. Government officials are scrambling to manage the unexpected influx. But those arriving speak of something deeper, a spiritual summons they could not ignore. You're hearing this because you too may feel that pull in your spirit, that inexplicable drawing toward Jerusalem in these final days. The morning sky over Jerusalem hung low with anticipation. The old city's narrow alleys and broad avenues alike teemed with newcomers speaking hundreds of languages. Hotel rooms filled to capacity. Makeshift camps appeared on the hills surrounding the city. Yet despite the crowding, witnesses described an unusual atmosphere of peace and expectancy. What began as a trickle 3 days ago has become a flood. Air traffic controllers at Ben Gurion Airport reported that incoming flights requested landing clearance at twice the normal rate. Border crossings from Jordan, Egypt and Lebanon saw lines stretching for miles, people willing to wait hours just to enter Israel. Most remarkable is the diversity. Orthodox Jews walking alongside Muslims, Christians singing with Druze, secular tourists praying with Buddhist monks. People who would normally avoid each other found themselves drawn to the same sacred spaces, particularly the areas facing the sealed Eastern Gate. "I'm an atheist professor from Sweden," said a middle-aged woman who arrived yesterday. "I can't explain why I'm here. I cancelled 3 lectures and bought a one-way ticket. Something told me, you need to be in Jerusalem now." A group of indigenous elders from South America stood near the Western Wall, their traditional dress standing out among the crowds. "Our ancestors spoke of a time when all tribes would gather in the holy city," their spokesperson explained. "We believed it was just a legend until we felt the call ourselves. This isn't coincidental migration. This is prophetic convergence. What was scattered is being gathered. What was divided is being united." Isaiah 2:2-3 prophesied, "In the last days the mountain of the Lord's temple will be established as the highest of the mountains. It will be exalted above the hills, and all nations will stream to it. Many peoples will come and say, 'Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the temple of the God of Jacob.'" And in the New Testament, Revelation 7:9 describes, "After this I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb." My friend, can you grasp the divine orchestration unfolding? Do you see how the Father is arranging all the pieces for the final act? The nations are being drawn to Jerusalem not by human invitation, but by divine summons. Share this message if you feel that same pull in your spirit. Comment, "I hear the call," if you sense that Jerusalem is stirring something within you, even from afar. How will you respond to this gathering of nations? Will you remain an observer, or will you recognize your place in this prophetic fulfillment? What's drawing people to Jerusalem today is gathering a remnant, but what's coming will gather the entire world. Today, something impossible appeared over the Eastern Gate. The ancient sealed entrance, dormant for centuries, suddenly became the focal point of supernatural activity. Witnesses stood transfixed, unable to fully process what their eyes beheld, and when I share what happened there, you'll understand why this marks the beginning of the end. Major networks won't broadcast this. It disrupts too many worldviews, challenges too many assumptions, but thousands witnessed it, and their testimonies are spreading across the globe. You're hearing this now because your spirit has been prepared for this revelation, not by chance, but by divine design. The afternoon sun cast its golden light on Jerusalem's eastern wall. The massive stones of the sealed Eastern Gate, the very entrance through which tradition says the Messiah will enter, stood as they have for centuries, immovable, imposing, waiting. It began with a subtle illumination, a soft glow that seemed to emanate from within the ancient stones themselves. By 4 p.m., the light had intensified, creating what appeared to be an archway of pure light superimposed over the physical gate. Within this luminous arch, witnesses described seeing faint outlines of figures moving, as if on the threshold between two realms. Most remarkably, olive branches began to appear at the base of the gate, not carried there by human hands, but materializing as witnesses watched. By sunset, hundreds of these branches formed a carpet before the sealed entrance. An archaeologist who has studied the Eastern Gate for decades was visibly shaken. In 30 years of scientific research, I've never encountered anything that defies explanation like this. These stones are speaking. A young mother, who had brought her children to see the old city walls, pointed toward the illuminated gate with trembling hands. My grandmother told me I would live to see this day. I didn't believe her until now. This isn't an isolated incident. This is the culmination of prophecy. What was sealed in the ancient texts is being unsealed before our eyes. Zechariah 14:4 prophesied, "On that day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, east of Jerusalem, and the Mount of Olives will be split in two from east to west, forming a great valley, with half of the mountain moving north and half moving south." And Jesus himself said in Matthew 24:33, "Even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door." My dear friend, can you sense the prophetic momentum building? Do you perceive how the supernatural is increasingly intersecting with our natural world? The veil is thinning. What was hidden is being revealed. Write Maranatha in the comments if your heart resonates with this revelation. Share this message so others may awaken to the times we are living in. Now that you've witnessed these signs, how will you live differently? Will you continue as before, or will you align yourself with the prophetic calendar that is quickly advancing? What stirred at the Eastern Gate today has awakened Jerusalem, but what comes through that gate will awaken the entire world. Until then, stay ready, stay faithful. Maranatha.